All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon breakout session. It is titled Celebrating Innovation, Pivoting with New Solutions, New Channels, and New Ideas. I'm Michael Hostad from the Greater Milwaukee Committee. I oversee talent and innovation for the agency there, and I'm a member of the planning team for the Governor's Conference. It's my honor this afternoon to introduce our speaker, who will be leading a panel discussion. And I want to give you a little bit of background about her to start. Missy Hughes is the Secretary and CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, which is Wisconsin's lead economic development organization. But before joining the WEDC in October 2019, Missy served as the General Counsel and Chief Mission Officer at Organic Valley. Her previous positions include Associate Attorney at the firm of Holland and Hart. While there, she practiced in the areas of natural resources, construction litigation, and corporate business transaction. She served on the boards of the Environmental Working Group and the Organic Trade Association, where she was a 3-term board president. And as if that was not enough, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture appointed Missy to the USDA Advisory Committee on Agriculture and Biotechnology in the 21st Century. Really impressive background there. Ms. Hughes received her Bachelor of Art in Political Science from Georgetown University and her Juris Doctor degree from the University of Wyoming College of Law. So please join me in welcoming Secretary Missy Hughes. Missy, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Owen. Thank you for the introduction. I really need to shorten my bio up. So I'm really excited about today's panel. It is a continuing effort at WEDC to celebrate innovation. Back when the pandemic really started to hit, I had a conversation with economists at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and expressed to me concern that in an age of pandemic, in a time of potentially a drastic recession, innovation can really get stalled. And they were having conversations with young students who previously had indicated, yeah, I'm going to go out and start my own business. And then in another conversation, it said, maybe I should just get a steady job. Maybe I don't want to start a new business. And we all know how important entrepreneurship and innovation is to our economy. So as we went through the pandemic, we kept our eye on that, and we were able to deploy some CARES Act dollars for what we called the We're All Innovating contest. And it was an effort to go out all around the state and find instances where Wisconsin's can-do attitude solved issues created by COVID. And so we're really excited to have 3 of our winners here today. And what we want to do is just have a good conversation with them, not only about what they did, but why they did it and what spurred them on to, take this risk, to jump in, to pivot what they were doing in their business. And, I think we can learn that spirit of innovation, that culture of innovation, and help share that with our businesses all around Wisconsin. So with that, we're going to dive in. And first, I'm going to ask each of the companies to give us some background about who they are and what they've done, and then we can have some conversation. So let's start with Kendall Williams from the Menominee Food Co-op, a food co-op that I love to go visit. And I'm a cooperative person, so I'm excited for Kendall's discussion. Kendall, welcome.
Thank you so much. As Missy said, I am Kendall Williams, the marketing manager, and I was the lead project manager for the project. We won the We're All Innovating contest. So Menominee Market Food Co-op is an almost 47-year-old grocery store that's owned by over 3,000 members of our community, mainly in Western Wisconsin, but also in several states as those people have moved away. Our main focus as a cooperative is connecting our shoppers with local producers and their products. Currently, 35% of our entire grocery store sales come from locally sourced products, which we're really proud of, followed by organic products and sustainably focused products. We also work a lot on community outreach as well. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kendall. And let's talk with Alexander Kemp from Novere.
Hi, Missy. Thanks again for inviting me. It's terrific to be here. My name is Alexander Kemp. I'm the president and founder of Novere. We are a biotechnology company that's focused on early detection of infectious disease, starting off with rapid point-of-care solutions for COVID, being able to detect quickly and inexpensively at scale whether you have COVID or whether you had COVID. And it served a great purpose during the pandemic and continues to help support a safer setting, going back to campuses, workplaces, and eventually will become a tool to allow safer access to pump back up the economy in terms of tourism, travel, leisure, sports, and sort of those things. We're a team of primarily XG healthcare folks, a few direct supply people, and a terrific medical advisory board with people from the US and outside. And we look forward to talk about innovation today.
Thank you, Alexander. And we have Christella Carter from the Vibes Creative Art Space. Christella?
Hi, I am Christella Roche from Vibes Creative Art Space. We focus on art through healing and different aspects. So art as far as painting, crafting, clay work, poetry, writing. And we've been able to pivot our in-person experience to an at-home experience. So thank you for having us here today. And I look forward to sharing what we've been able to do and how we've been innovative.
Excellent. So, Christella, let's stick with you. I love creativity is really, I think, the spark that then turns into innovation. So let's start with you as you birth innovation. So tell us what happened kind of within your business as COVID started to unfold, and then how you found, what you needed to do in order to keep going, how you innovated, and what you were working on.
When the pandemic first hit, we had the safer at home order, and we were closed. No in person, no, our main thing was in person. People could pop in with their families if they just needed some alone time. They could pop in, or like a date night, and so that was having to completely shut down and stop. That was really it really made us think of new ways we could still give people that experience, because they were asking. People were looking for things to do at home because they didn't want to come out. They were looking for things that they could do virtually, and that really was not that wasn't our realm of how we interact with our supporters and with our customers. So once the pandemic hit, we had to find virtual ways to interact with our customers, we like to say our family, to interact with our family within the community. We scheduled a couple of one-on-ones. We had to figure out how to get people their materials. We invested in some delivery services so that people wouldn't have to leave their home, and they could still kind of get all of their materials, so their canvas, their paint, their brushes, and everything, just so that they can join us just safely from their home. That was the biggest thing, figuring out how to do our sessions virtually. We've had like one-on-one sessions that we would do in person as well as group sessions. So we had to kind of figure out that scheduling, and then how to get all of these disposable materials out to the people.
Because a lot of your business was being in the shop, and you could reuse your paintbrushes, reuse your material.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. So we have aprons, brushes, paint palettes. So we had to find a supplier for, all of those disposable items, and then get them quickly. And when the pandemic started, the mail system was pretty slow, and I think they're still trying to catch up from that now. And so just getting the materials and then actually getting them out to people in a timely fashion. And businesses, they were looking for things for their employees to do so they could still bond, so they don't feel like they're just stuck doing work on the computer all day. So trying to kind of maneuver that was a new aspect for us, and just really taking everything that we did in person and putting it online.
So stick with us. I want to find out from Kendall. Kendall, what was the innovation and the pivot that you led at the co-op?
So our project was actually launching e-commerce for a grocery store. We're a single location organization and about $5 million in sales, so not very big at all. E-commerce was a project that we had planned to take on in the next few years, but we knew that upfront cost was going to be substantial and we would have to plan ahead for that. So our initial thinking when the pandemic hit was, how do we keep our shoppers safe and our staff safe at the same time? We were one of the fortunate organizations to be able to keep our doors open throughout the Safer at Home order. So we had to figure out occupancy limits. Within a week of that order going in place, we had plexiglass up at the registers. The health department in Menominee even asked us where we got it. Like, we were one of the first ones to install all of those social distancing measures. And that was really our priority in the early days of the pandemic. We also wanted to make sure we could actually keep our doors open if we had staff infected. So that was a challenge. We also wanted to make sure we didn't have to lay off any of our staff. About 35% of our sales, 30% or so, 30% of our staff maybe, came from our deli, and their sales plummeted 80%, I think, in the beginning of the pandemic. So because we launched e-commerce as quickly as we did, we were able to shift those employees into that personal shopping position that we had to create. So we were able to save those jobs early on. We did not lay off a single member of our 35-person staff. So that was amazing. And it was all because we launched e-commerce so quickly. We also focused on maintaining our level of local products. A lot of our local farmers and producers were immediately impacted by the Safer at Home order because restaurants shut down, and that was a huge revenue stream for them. We wanted to make sure that we were buying as much as we were pre-pandemic, if not increasing the amount of sales from locals. So e-commerce has allowed us to do that. So that is, we also have our older, I would say, quite a few of our owners who are our most frequent shoppers, they're a category as well, who often shopped in store. So because we launched e-commerce and curbside pickup, we were able to continue to serve them. So it's really helped our business stay alive.
And do you think you'll keep doing it after the pandemic?
Absolutely. It's been, since the pandemic started, it's been anywhere from 5 to 15% of our monthly sales have come from e-commerce. Been very volatile as the orders and stuff have gone into place. But it's settling around 6 to 8% each month now that we're trying to get back to normal. And when your store is trying to grow 10 to 12% every year, you can't afford to lose that percentage of your sales. So it'll definitely be a service that we continue to use and offer in the future.
Nice. Great. Well, thank you. And Alexander, Novir didn't exist before the pandemic. So it's not like you were pivoting from your regular life, but tell us a little bit about those very early days and what happened.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for context, I'm a Swede. I was born in Stockholm, and it means something in this. So my experiences in healthcare, spent 25 years in healthcare working for GE, and I left GE and I set up an investment fund to invest in digital health. And the innovation here came up because of friction. Essentially, I came to a standstill in early last year when the pandemic hit with investing in a new business, raising the money, putting the deal together. It just stopped from one day to another, essentially. And it got me thinking about what to do and what this is going to look like. And the advantage I had was that my family, my mother, my brother, sister, friends all in Europe, in Sweden or Spain and in different countries, and they were ahead of us about a couple of months. So and they had a hard time. Some of them, you know, they were hit hard. Sweden has been in the news about that, unfortunately. I asked, what can we do? I mean, I essentially tried to find things we could do because I had healthcare experience in supporting, you know, resolving COVID as much as we could. And what came back loud and clear was testing. I mean, back then, early on, and still today, testing as an additional layer of safety in managing the pandemic, which involves medical devices, which is my expertise, was underserved. And so we started looking into that, and we partnered up with a Swedish firm to figure out how can we solve for testing? How can we make testing easily accessible for everyone? How can we make it inexpensive? And how can we get results right away so you can take action? And out of that came these rapid tests that we've developed that we're manufacturing here in Milwaukee. And it was just really friction. It came to a standstill. Wanted to put our experience to work. So ended up with a team of XG healthcare people, you know, from direct supply, as I said, you know, medical advisory board and so forth, to have the best possible know-how. Because that's been one thing I think is to stay ahead of the pandemic is about know-how and data and how you use it smart. And so as a result, we came up with these lateral flow assays that are essentially using an existing technology, but for a new application to get COVID tests done inexpensively and rapidly. But it was tough in the beginning for sure, but it was very clear, again, from one day to another, what we could do to help. And here we are.
Excellent, thank you. Well, so, you know, what's striking me hearing from each of you is the focus that each of you have on health and the health for customers. Kendall, you're talking about good food. Chriselle, you're talking about the power of art to heal and to help people, you know, survive the doldrums of the pandemic. And, you know, I think even before that, you were thinking about the health of your clients. And, you know, Alexander, clearly, you know, you've got the direct connection to thinking about testing and how to stop the virus. I guess I'd like to know a little bit about, you know, do you feel like this innovation was a matter of survival for your business, or you know, what drove it and what powered that willingness to say, okay, we have to completely shift things? And so let's start with Chrisella. And what do you think? Like, what was it? Just we need to survive, or was it an opportunity to do something different?
For us, I would say it was a little bit of both. We definitely had to do something different because all of our in-person sessions had stopped. The location that we're in, we're located inside of the Sherman Phoenix, and inside of there, we were only doing in and out. So even just to protect our community, Milwaukee, you know, we're kind of like a hot spot, unfortunately. So instead of having, even when the capacity limit went to like 25% or 50%, we were still, the Sherman Phoenix is still operating for in and out services. So all of our in-person activity had stopped. So initially we were trying to find a way to survive, knowing that our in-person sessions were done for a little bit. As we continued, as people continued to reach out, they were literally just needing something other than work or school to do, and also staying at home. And, you know, if you're just at home all the time, that can be, it can create a downer. And so we wanted to be that fun aspect, give people kind of like a mental release, so that they can still do something that isn't kind of necessarily work or school related. And so then it became not just something to survive as a business, but something to continue to serve our community. As you said before, even in person, we were a space for people to kind of relax. And so we wanted to create that online platform for them to also relax, still laugh and have fun, while not feeling like it was a job because they were now on their computer so much.
Awesome, thank you. And Kendall, you mentioned that the co-op had been thinking about e-commerce for a long time. It was going to cost a lot. There was, I'm sure you'd had many meetings about how do we set up e-commerce, how do we do that, and then all of a sudden, you're rolling with it. So what do you think enabled you to really say, okay, we got to go?
I would say we had no choice, really. I mean, in the beginning, the pandemic changed shopping habits overnight. People needed curbside pickup, and that was a service we did not offer yet in any capacity, outside of the occasional customer needing us to go grab something off a shelf and take it to their car. We didn't have a way for them to see what our products were online, or even just submit a shopping list online. Nothing like that existed for us yet. So we just didn't have a choice in moving forward with that project. I would also say something interesting happened where when the pandemic started, our promotions and events ended immediately, which is the majority of what my department does in marketing. So there was this very apple in the garage meeting with my boss and our finance manager, where I remember saying, if not now, when will we do this? When will my department come to a complete halt? Like it's happening right now. We can tackle this project and do it quickly and get it launched within a couple of months, which is unheard of at the scale that we've done it. We have anywhere from 10 to 15,000 products, and now they're all online. And it's because we decided to just go for it. And we're really grateful that we did.
That's amazing. And Alexander, you were not involved in testing, and you had some healthcare background, but you had mentioned to me previously that you were involved in investing, and that kind of came to a halt. Was there what I would have done, I think, in your seat would have said, well, somebody's gonna do testing. I shouldn't do that. Why? There's smarter people than me out there. What made you say, you know what, I'm going for it. This is something that I'm gonna try and pull together and do?
Yeah, well, I guess it's part of who I am. I to my downside sometimes, when I see something, I want to do it and get it resolved. And so I really had to find a hard time sitting back. And when it came to a standstill, I was looking for what is it we can do to help. And that was the major driver. And I mean, this pandemic, this chaos, this Ragnarok in front of us was so overwhelming that it also seemed like filled with overwhelming opportunities to help, frankly. That the disruptive nature of it just created a clean slate for everything. Anything could be helpful and everything could be helpful. And so, with that drive and with the sort of the impact on a family basis in Europe, it was just pretty straightforward. Honestly, it was capabilities I had and we had and in my network, and to put them to use. And it was frictionless in that sense. Once we got going, and it's been amazing how the team has been built up, and the type of talent we have at Novir today is unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better team. And it just happens serendipitously. People keep joining in, and to this cause and to what we do. And I can't control that. It's just happening. So it's divine intervention, if you wish. But I think that's sort of the background. Is I think the pandemic has cleaned the slate for things. It started, a blank sheet of paper. Let's think about things differently. And this testing effort is exactly that. It is not applying an archaic, expensive process with doing testing out of labs which is not enough. It can't be applied against the pandemic. It is thinking about it differently. What is it we can do differently? And when you have this sort of world upside down, I think you're not as protected and guardrailed. You're naturally pushed to think about things so differently. So that push, I think, has created a lot of innovation across the country, whether it is existing businesses like, Kendall's or other new ones that came out of this. And it's certainly accelerated a way for us to operate that's was existing, but it's now to a completely different level. And so there are fortunate, out of the unfortunate, there's some significant things going on here that's going to help us, evolve tremendously and above all, be better prepared for the next one. Because this, frankly, however painful it's been, it's merely a dry run as I see it. These things, will inevitably happen again. We'll be much better prepared. We'll have changed our processes, our standard of care and all of that.
I got to jump in here real quick because I've just enjoyed listening to these stories. And as someone who, has a job around innovation, it's incredible to hear how you all have taken advantage of the opportunity, if we want to use that. It's kind of a weird word to describe the pandemic, but there was opportunity there. Kendall, you mentioned, if not now, when, sort of things. And Alexander and Chrisella, you both mentioned, let's remove the guardrails. Now's the time to do that. In what ways do you feel like after this pandemic is over and done with, how do you retain that culture of innovation within your organizations? The pandemic, I think, forced us to remove those guardrails, forced us out of our comfort zones. And we've now seen that the three of you are perfect examples that you can innovate and that you can grow within these crazy times. So when the times are less crazy, how do you continue to grow and innovate and keep that culture alive and well in your organizations? Kendall, maybe we can start with you.
Sure, yeah. We, our staff is actually in the middle, we do 5-year visioning. We're in the middle of redoing that because the vision we had set pre-pandemic no longer applies, obviously. So much has changed. And actually, one of the topics that has come up, there are about 5 managers who do this at the top level. Each one of us has agreed that now that we know what we're capable of when it comes to innovating in our business, in our written vision statement from here on out, we want to continue to be innovators in grocery and in the cooperative industry. So it's really just about making sure that that's in your vision from now on. That's part of your business. Every day you walk into work, you're thinking about how can we stay on the forefront and keep serving our community the way that we have this year.
Awesome. Chrisella, how about you?
I agree with a lot of what she said. For us, we, as much as we want, the world to be how it was pre-pandemic, it's definitely going to be different once, the pandemic has passed. One thing that we will definitely continue to do is offer the virtual and at-home services. That was completely new for us. We had to learn how to kind of operate the virtual world, get equipment so that we could operate in the virtual world. But people have really enjoyed it. Everything from kids sessions to couple sessions. So that's something that we'll definitely continue to do, the at-home options, and hopefully we get to a point where we can do the at-home and in-person at the same time, so people can kind of get that in-person feel at home. So that's definitely something that we'll continue to do, and hopefully down the line we'll be able to expand that to wider areas.
That hybrid approach is pretty remarkable, isn't it? The hybrid approach of both the virtual and in person, I think, creates some interesting opportunities.
Absolutely.
And then Alexander, you just mentioned in your last bit that you think this might just be a dry run for future pandemics, which sort of makes me want to crawl under the table. But tell us a little bit about kind of where you think your organization is going to go and how innovation stays at your core culture.
Yeah, this is something that's on my mind constantly, while keeping our head down and delivering on important testing across, Wisconsin and outside. As a new business, that's a big question, right? It has been formed during the pandemic. How do you possibly maintain and create a sustainable business out of that? And how does that continue to innovate? I think it's an excellent question. It's on my mind all the time. So what I believe is going to happen, what our mission is essentially to deliver on reliable, inexpensive screening solutions. And that means that we're going to solve for two large issues within healthcare: cost and access. If we can get ahead of the game on infectious disease or disease in general and healthcare issues in general, with making it accessible for people at scale, remotely, not having to go into the doctor, doing a quick scan, doing a quick specimen reading in the home, we're solving a huge issue, for many different indications. So when I look at Novir, I look at COVID being an incredibly important effort that is new for us to address, but we're also creating a platform for future indications and future screening and to stay ahead of it. Not necessarily a pandemic. It really is preventive healthcare screening in the home. And there's so many use cases for it. So I think we'll be having, a number of discussions on this. And, come 3-4 months from now, we're working on a product portfolio to look at some of these other screening opportunities. But that's where we go with this. That's the way we have to do it, because that's the question I get from the team all the time. What now? Vaccination is out. What now? What are we going to do later? They all are hungry and want to know. But that's our vision. This is serendipitously a fortunate out of the unfortunate opportunity that's been created, and a springboard for being preventive, inexpensively at scale on healthcare.
Yeah, certainly a lot of places you can go there. Thank you for indulging me in that. It's hard to, I love sitting and listening to this, and got to ask some questions every now and then. So Missy, I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I mean, it helps just to, what you're thinking about, because it is such a fascinating conversation. So, if I think about my experience in the private sector and trying to innovate, and, in fact, at WEDC, we've been innovating like crazy, coming up with new programs and trying to, determine how to best help small businesses all around the state. There's often whisperers, right? You can't do it. It's not going to work. Not going to happen. So, I'd be interested to hear from all of you, how'd you deal with the naysayers? Who were like, yeah, that's, people aren't going to do art online, or, Alexander, you'll never get through the FDA, or Kendall, people are just going to shop at Amazon and not the local co-op. So what were some of the, don't jump on my naysaying. Alexander, let's start with you. How'd you kind of break through those folks who were like, yeah, or this isn't going to work?
Well, I'm laughing because that has been what we faced from the get-go, having information that, that was ahead of the pandemic, from Europe and other places, was not necessarily to our advantage in the beginning, April, May, when we're out there saying, we got to do testing. You got to make this inexpensive. It doesn't have to be perfect. You got to do it at scale. And we had our roadshow across the state. We went to all kinds of organizations, and we said, look, this is what you should be doing. We would get the hand on every, frankly, every institution, city, county, state, organizations, because they said, well, it's PCR, the lab test. It's the only thing that matters. We knew it wasn't, and we had data to support it. And it was very disappointing. The rewarding piece is that organizations such as UW Systems that we talked heavily with back in May are applying rapid testing now. So at least they're doing that, and they get the value of it. So we've seen what we pitched and what we believed in actually happen and translate in reality. but it was very tough for us. We didn't get anywhere. We just, we could have stopped. Anybody would have stopped, I think, at that time. Because, who are you to tell the clinical environment this, and the experts say that, and CDC didn't help either, because CDC was lagging and kept lagging in coming out with new guidelines. And, you can't stick your neck out because then you're not compliant. And so that for us has been tremendously hard. We've had naysayers around us all day from the get-go. And it was so many times we considered killing. I considered killing this because, we're not going to get the support. So we overcame it, and people started coming back to us, I would say in September. So a lot of months later. And especially schools are now a big portion of our, customers, as an example, a category. But really, it's loosened up across a number of customers, manufacturers, dentistry, pharmacy. Now we're into a large hotel chain that's trying to figure out how do they bring customers back, in a state far away. And so it's been tough. It's been tough, but you got to stay. You got to, if you believe in that, and it's what must happen. Just don't let go. You just got to go and push for it. And we did, but it was very tough, very tough.
Thank you, Rochella. How about, were there any naysayers in your world?
Yes. In the beginning, we had to postpone quite a few events. We had people who did not want to transfer to a virtual event. There were people who definitely counted us out, kind of said we weren't going to make it through through the pandemic, and we weren't going to last long, and we weren't going to open back up our doors. So, after I cried a little bit and wiped up my tears, I, sat and brainstormed with my team. And what we did first was open our online platform. So our website, we opened that up to local artists to kind of share their story, share their artwork, and sell their artwork. Along with us exploring art in general, we have a small gallery wall where local artists can display their work for the quarter, and they have an opportunity to sell. So we were able to put that online. That was an easy task for us. So while we were highlighting different artists, we did the background work to figure out how to do the virtual sessions, and kind of figured that out. And once we launched that, people were slow to roll in, but I think because, the pandemic is new to a lot of people, and they probably thought it was going to go away very quickly, but it's still here. And so now people are, and I would say just now within the last maybe 2 months, people are really coming around to the virtual sessions. But in the beginning, just kind of getting people on board with the virtual sessions and the naysayers, it was pretty hard, and people are literally just now coming around. In December, people were kind of looking for things for their employees to do virtually, and birthday parties virtually. That kind of came around, but in the beginning, there was a lot of you're not going to make it, and how are you going to do all this? And we figured it out. We didn't let the pandemic kind of slow us down, and we didn't want to not still be active on our social media platforms. So we opened it up to local artists for them to share their story and their work while we figured out how to do the rest.
Yeah, I mean, there really was a moment when people thought, oh, this is going to go away. Right. This isn't going to be, so I'm thinking about you as a business owner going, I gotta go. We got to do this. Kendall, how'd you deal with folks who were 15,000 items? There's no way you're going to get that all online.
Oh man. I again would say that my boss just looked at me one day and said, I think we need to launch e-commerce. And I was walking past her office when she said that, and I turned around and said, I'm sorry, what? I was the only one on our team who had worked with e-commerce before out of all 35 of us. So it really landed on my shoulders. I've never experienced that level of pressure before, but she told me we needed to launch it. And I said, okay, now we have to figure out how to do that. So we really just took that project and broke it down to as many manageable pieces as we could. And I delegated as much of the tasks as we could to the staff that we had. We got very, very lucky that we had the staff members we do to be able to launch this. If it had even happened 2 years ago, we probably wouldn't have been able to do it. So that was how we managed it. I will say, as far as naysayers go, we didn't really experience that from customers. There's something interesting happened where instead of, people shifting to buying from Amazon, it's more rallying around your community because you want it to survive. And that was what we experienced in our small town. It was really our shoppers wanting to make sure that our local vendors stayed in business after this is all over. So they started shopping with us more. I will say that was also exacerbated by, I don't know if any of you remember the meat shortage that happened earlier this year. That was right as the pandemic started. That really shined a light on how broken the bigger food system actually is when something like a worldwide pandemic happens. People looked to us because we were able to keep our shelves stocked with, meat and other groceries much faster than the big chains were. So thankfully, we have experienced mostly gratefulness from our shoppers for everything that we've been able to do during the pandemic.
Nice, I love that. Chriselle, you wanted to add something?
I was going to say, to piggyback off of what Kendall said, while we were figuring out the like virtual aspect of things, and we opened up our online store to artists to sell their work, the community really supported our like at-home kits. So like that paint at home sessions that are just a kit that they can do themselves. Like the community really stepped in, and that was also something that made me feel like, okay, we can do this. We can make it. We're not going to close our doors forever. The people really want this, and they want to see us survive. So yeah, Kendall was absolutely right. It was although there were people that were like, you're not going to make it, there were like 10 times the amount of people that were saying, no, we're going to see you through this. We support you. So, yeah.
I love that. So what's striking me is the passion that each of you have for your work and your business and what you've done. You're all just seem like heroes to me at this moment. And I think I want to make it personal for a second, if I can, and just ask, like, what did you really learn about yourself in this process? Like, you can sit here, it's January, I think, and look back, or February, turned into February, wow, I had no idea I could do X. Like, Chriselle, I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, what did you learn the most about yourself in this process?
So I love art, and I love to like explore different types of art. I do a lot of fluid art or acrylic pouring art, and I was not one to kind of put my art out there. If we were at like a festival or something, I'd have a few of my pieces there. But this pandemic really has encouraged me, I won't say forced, encouraged me to put more of my art out there, and kind of believe in myself. A lot of times I would just do art and keep it to myself. It's like all around my house and in my office or at my mother's house. But now this pandemic has really encouraged me to kind of share my art because other people enjoy it and like it also. So I guess one thing I would say is like art is a vibe. It's a real life vibe. It vibrates through your body basically, and I got a chance to share it.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Alexander, what'd you learn the most about yourself in this process?
Well, I think I think I believe, you believe that you know a lot of things, and I think people is probably the biggest takeaway for me. I feel I have a good idea about people and a good read quickly, but how this team came together was really surprising. I could not have called the types of team members, what they're able to deliver. I just couldn't have called it, and that was a huge learning for me in really thinking through how you assess people and what they can bring to the table. I'd say at least half the team wouldn't have been people I picked. It just wouldn't have been, and so I think I learned about people in a big way and what they're able to deliver once they get on board and excited about what you're doing, and maybe with the chaotic environment in the background helps accelerate and accentuate. And I also think I learned seeing people do things they didn't think they were able to do. In all honesty, really grew tremendously in their abilities in months, literally months, because we like you, Kendall, had to figure things out from scratch. So, okay, we got to do e-commerce. Okay, we got to do these tests. We didn't know how, and it's been amazing. So the people aspect and figuring out, don't believe that you know people and what they are capable of, because you don't know half of it. And there's a huge benefit with a terrific team. In the old world, in the GE world, I would have, follow the processes, the background, do the interviews, and, I would have known what the fit is, but we were limiting ourselves, right? So you're limiting your business and yourself with that type of mindset. This was sort of clean slate and really, really open-minded, and it paid off, in troves.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Kendall, how about you? What did you learn about yourself through this process?
I would say I really developed my leadership skills in a way I did not expect throughout all of this. I do hold a leadership role at our co-op, but I mostly work in the marketing department. And when this happened, I pretty much got pushed to the forefront, and all eyes were on me to lead this project. And then we launched it, and not only was I leading staff through it in every department, because e-commerce ripples through every department. It's, listing the products online, but also making sure that we have inventory counts correct when buyers are purchasing products. And then the customer service team has to be the one to actually pick the order and deliver it to the customer. So really, I've had to lead our whole team. And then we launched that project as a lot of other food co-ops. We are part of a cooperative that has 150 other co-ops in it, saw what we did and were like, how did you do that? And how did you do it so quickly? And how is it already sustainable? So really now it's like the entire nation of co-ops is looking at us. So that's been really fun and really interesting for me. I'm more of a behind the scenes person. I have worked hard to have the reputation of, if I'm going to be involved in a project, number one, it's going to get done. And number two, it's going to be done very well and very beautifully, because I also am an artist and I like things to look good. So really to just have to step into the spotlight a little bit and lead this project and help other co-ops get theirs set up and launched as well it's been fun.
That's so great. I'm going to leave it at that. We're at the end of our time, and I'm so glad that you three were able to share that personal experience in our last few minutes here, because I think it's really incredible what you've been able to do. And you're all innovators. I'm not sure if heading into this you thought of yourselves as innovators, but you clearly are innovators with a capital I. And Wisconsin is lucky to have all of you, and caring about your communities and caring about those around you is incredibly important. And we at WEDC have called a lot of the work that we've done during the pandemic, we're all in, and it comes from this idea of we're all in this together. And with folks like you, we are going to be okay, and we're going to come out of this stronger and better than ever. So thank you on behalf of Wisconsin and beyond. I really appreciate your efforts, and I thank you very much for joining us here today. Michael, thank you for joining us, and Alexander and Chrisella and Kendall, thank you so much for being part of our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Missy. Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Thank you.